we'll take this stuff. We'll go here. Today we're going over some total body mobility. Gonna show you some of my favorite exercises. For those of you who like sit all day, this is gonna be great. We're gonna go use the lacrosse ball to start, and we're gonna work on some of the muscles up in the upper back. So right here, if you can see like where my shoulder blade is, the top of it, that's where I want to keep this lacrosse ball. There's a muscle there called the levator scapula, and that's one of them that I want to work on here. So I'm going to put that lacrosse ball there. I'm going to go ahead and lay on my back, and then I'm going to keep my arms straight and then go straight up overhead. Okay, so that ball kind of slipped out on me there, but I want to keep it. And then, yeah, now it's in a really good spot because it's like at the top of my shoulder blade, but it's also coming right down into the inside of the blade too. So between the shoulder blade and the spine, it's like right at those corners there, if you can see that at the very top. So it's there, it feels like terrible, and then you're going overhead, and then you should feel that tension increase, and it should be kind of painful as you're going up and over the top. Try to keep your arms straight. Don't let that arm bend if you can. And then we're just working through this. If you really hate yourself, then just bridge up and dig into it even more. I can't do it because I'll die if I do that. And then this video will be done. So moving along. Next one, we just take that lacrosse ball now and we just move it lower on the inside of the spine. So if I put my arm behind my back, I can feel that my shoulder blade pops out more, and then you can feel where the inside of your shoulder blade is. So I'm taking this all the way across that middle of the blade. So here, and then you can either work going overhead, or you can come across the body. Both of them suck equally, but they're pretty effective. Okay, so working on that. Still trying to keep the elbow straight, trying to stay conscious, trying not to pass out or die while you're doing it. Is probably the key there. All right. Additionally, if you want, you can put your arm behind your back. For me, when I put it behind my back, I get the winging of the scapula there, so then I can dig on the inside of that. Oh, I lost the ball. So I'll be like here. And then I just try to sink my shoulder blade around that ball there. And this can be really effective if you struggle with that reaching behind the back, with the extension and internal rotation of the shoulder. This one can be a good one. All right, so I've done those, got my shoulder feeling pretty good there. I'm gonna flip over, and then I'm gonna take this lacrosse ball and I'm gonna put it on my pec here. So give this muscle the pec minor that we're gonna try and get. I think it's the easiest if you like kind of flex. I can flex my tiny pecs here, and then I stick that ball up underneath it, and then I go onto my side here like this, or like, I guess I'm on my stomach still, but a little bit tilted towards the side, and then I'm digging in, so I'm up underneath my pec, and then I go straight up and then back down. So you should feel more tension when you raise your arm up. So when this muscle's tight, this can be pulling on the shoulder blade, doing what we call the anterior tilt. And it can be putting you in a position that creates more of a shoulder impingement. So if you're somebody who's dealing with pain in the front of the shoulder, this might be one of the muscles that's contributing to that problem. We did the back of the shoulder, I did that pec minor, and then really if I want to, I can hit more of the lat and the subscapularis muscle by going on my side here, going right on that outside, and then I'd go back with my arm. So it's just externally rotating the arm. And then when you do that, you should feel more tension. If you don't feel more tension and it doesn't hurt more when you go back, then you're probably not on the right spot, because that's what should happen. So give that a little whirl. Might as well do it while I'm here. Make it worth my time. Okay, it's good. So that's a lot of the best bang for your buck stuff with the shoulder. So if you're somebody who's using one of these foam rollers, I mean, not like the spiky one in general, because you also probably hate yourself if you're using the spiky roller for any reason. But if you're using a regular foam roll for the thoracic spine and you're just sitting back on this thing and you're like cranking back, you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting great stretch, right? You're just going nuts with it. You're probably doing a little too much because you don't need that much movement. I think that's one thing people do too much is they just like go way crazy with all these big ranges of motion. You can use something smaller like this half foam roller, or maybe even sometimes like a pool noodle with like a stick through it can work fine for people, but like you really just don't need a ton of movement. You don't need the biggest barrel that you can arch over to get a nice stretch for the upper back. Because I'm not really big into jamming the back into extension anyways, and I'll explain a little more, but I'd rather, if I'm gonna work on extension, I go like right at the bottom of my shoulder blades here, that takes us to like T7, and then I keep my hands behind my neck, and then I just very subtly rock over and then back up. And like, I feel this. This is effective. I don't need to do all these ridiculous movements that are massive over a really big foam roll to get an effective upper back stretch. So, simple little trick. Less is way more when it comes to thoracic extension. So use a half roller and don't use a big foam roll, and especially a very spiky roller. We'll take this roller, get rid of it. We don't need it anymore. So just let it go, right? We'll let somebody trip on it. So the next thing that's really important is thoracic rotation. So rotational movements, anyways, are neglected by people, but in the mid-back, the thoracic spine, it's especially neglected. So one of the things I like to do the most is an exercise where we go on all fours. I'm gonna keep my hand flipped this way, so my palm's up towards the ceiling. I tuck my butt down towards my heels, and then I thread the needle through. But this is a part that maybe you haven't done before. Man, the music got really loud, 2 Chainz in my ear. So once I'm here, 2 Chainz is yelling in my ear, then I push my hand down in the ground. So when you push your hand down on the ground, you should feel it on the inside of your shoulder blade, and then you come back out of it. So push down, or weave through, and then you push down, and then if you can, you take a deep breath in your belly, deep breath all the way out. And when you do that, you should feel that you can sink a little further into that motion. So just a quick review, when you are pushing down with this side of the hand into the ground, you should feel it on that inside of the shoulder blade that we were just working on with that lacrosse ball. So that's a good exercise to do for the thoracic rotation. You can do them where you're here and turning open. You could do it on your side. There's so many ways to do it. But the key is, I usually like to turn towards a side that's up in a flexed position. This helps lock in our lower back a little bit better. So if I'm here and going, it's better than keeping my legs down and then just opening up. You'll feel it a lot more effective in your mid back if you keep that leg locked up here and then coming up. So you can add a band to it. Like I said, there's a million ways that we can do this stuff. It's just the general concepts that are really important. If you're not working on moving well through your mid back with rotation or extension, it's time that you really need to start adding that into your program. We get the lacrosse ball back out, and now we're moving on to the hip. So with here, I'm gonna go for the glutes, piriformis, deep hip rotators, all this stuff in the back of the hip. And usually this is an area where we stay pretty tight, especially if you're having hip or low back pain with a squat or a deadlift. This is an area that you're most likely gonna need help with. So I put that ball there. It's behind my outside hip bone. I go behind that there. And then we're gonna bring the knee out and then the knee in. You should feel more tension when you come in. If you don't, then we're not in the right spot again. So knowing when you should feel more tension is really important, because then you know if you're in the right spot. Because you could be doing this thing and you could be doing it completely in the wrong muscle if you don't understand when you should feel more tension when you're moving. So, okay, work through that one. Then I sneak over to the front in the pocket side of my hip. So right where the pocket is, if I find my hip bone in the front, and then I come down and in about an inch, I end up at the pocket. And then that's about where the TFL muscle is that we're gonna dig into. So I roll onto the ball onto my side. I shouldn't be on any bones. You should know what it feels like when if you put that ball on like your elbow or on your kneecap, like you'll know what it feels like when you're pushing on a bone. The tension when you're pushing on a muscle is way different, and it feels really crappy. Like it's hard for me to just sit here and relax and have a good time. So I'm hanging out here, usually 30 seconds to 2 minutes on that ball, and then moving along. So I hit the glute, the rotators of the hip flexor, TFO, and then usually we'll either go and hit the quad in the front here, or the adductor is a great spot for us to hit. So if I grab a yoga block, that's gonna help a lot. Because if you just try to do this thing with the lacrosse ball, you're usually gonna be a little too low to the ground. Like watch, if I'm here, I mean, how am I even gonna get the pressure on it, right? Because I gotta basically sink all the way into the floor to even get any kind of tension, or pressure. So if I take that yoga block and put it there, and then I put the ball, then I hate my life. In a good way, of course. So there, pushing in. I try to get this thing up and in as high up on the groin as possible, and then you kind of work down from there. So you can explore the different areas all along that might be tight. Usually it's gonna be more like in that middle region, almost more into your hamstring where you're gonna feel a lot of the tightness. And if you notice, I have my leg up in this like flexed position. So I'm out to the side like this. So I'm here, I'm pushing in. Okay, we feel it a lot in this position. So then what I try to do is bring my knee down. So I try to actually adduct my leg. And I feel a change in tension, and then I relax. And then I go again, and then I relax. Or what you can do, which is actually more effective sometimes, is to try to bring your belly button down towards the ground. And now we're actually abducting and rotating the hip away. So you'll feel an increase in tension there. And then you relax. And then you try again. Bring your belly button down to the ground. More tension where the lacrosse ball is. Then you relax. So at the hip, those are some of the bread and butter exercise that you can do. So now let's do a couple exercises that are going to reinforce that mobility that we just worked on with that. So a common one that people do is I don't know what you want to call it. I call it the kettlebell weight shift. Other people call it a hip opener. That's a little easier. So we'll call it a hip opener. So if I have a kettlebell and I'm holding it here, what a lot of people will do is they'll open up. And then now you see how I'm like facing away? What you should focus on is facing your belly button forward, and then just bring your leg out to the side. And then you only go as far as you can go without your belly button moving with it. Because this is the same as this at the hip. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So I'm here, I open up, I hold my kettlebell here, and then I sink into the movement. I should feel a lot in that groin region that I was just digging into with the lacrosse ball. So I'm here, and then I actively push myself back. I'm using my quad to extend my knee and push myself back. So I'm here, push, load, push. So a great thing to do for the hip, but if you're not doing those two cues with the belly button forward and pushing away with the quad, you're probably leaving a little bit of effectiveness on the table there. So try that little change to that one. This one's a little bit of a combo move that I really like, but again, people will screw it up because there's just some little cues that you can give yourself that can make it way more effective. It's the 90-90 stretch, but we're gonna add a little bit of a hip rotation and then a reach through. But you don't get to graduate to the reach through until you can really feel the hips moving. Belly button's a really important thing here of knowing to bring your hips rotating in, creating what we call internal rotation at the right hip here, in my case. Because if the belly button's moving, I know that I'm moving my pelvis, the actual hip bones. Because if you don't, and you just kind of go here or you just lean forward, you're just moving more through the spine and not as much through the hip. So, got my left hand on my hip, I bring it forward, I should feel my right butt cheek. And then when I do, then I can reach through and get a little bit of my mid-back rotation as well, and then back up. And then, hey, you want to add a little bit of what we've already done, you can go here and then you can push your hand into the ground and then you're going to feel that shoulder blade. Right now, this exercise alone, I'm hitting my hip with this movement. I'm hitting my mid-back with this, with my thoracic spine, and then I'm also hitting the scapulothoracic, so where my shoulder meets my upper back with that extra push down. So you're hitting 3 things with one exercise. So you can be really effective and really efficient with these. All right, now that I've trashed the gym, got stuff everywhere, including that spiky foam roll, which I haven't tripped over yet. We're gonna just do a quad stretch here. So it's pretty high up. It's pretty high up for me. Quads are tight. I sit a lot editing videos like this, doing programs, so it's not fun. All right. I mean, it's not fun having a tight quad. Anyways, I got my leg up. Okay, and then from here, I can either squeeze my butt cheek right here, and I can already feel a stretch. And this happens because we're shifting what's going on at the pelvis. So without even moving, once I'm in like a medium stretch, I can squeeze the glute, and I already feel a bigger stretch. So you can do that where you come back here, then you squeeze the glute, and you should feel a lot in the quad itself. Then you can come out here. You're getting a more of a hip flexor stretch. I squeeze the glute, and I feel a huge stretch more at the top. Still feeling quad because I'm tight, but working through this entire motion, this is where we're gonna be more quad, squeeze the glute. Bring it out here, hip flexor, squeeze the glute. And we can also work on a little bit of side bending away, and then you're really gonna feel even more in the front of that hip. But what you're probably not doing with this is that glute squeeze. So if you aren't, try it, add it in, and then curse my name later. That is a little total body mobility routine that you can do, especially if you're somebody who sits all day and then you try to come in the gym and do some big lifts. Drop in the comments what you think, what some of your favorites are, or if this helped you. And make sure to hit the follow button so that you don't miss more vids like this one.